Hey there, Angela Mosley here. Welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to show you 4 core moves with resisted breathing that you can do to continue to heal prolapse and get your pelvic floor stronger. What you're going to need in today's video or today's exercises is I have a yoga block, of course, a balloon, and then a wall for 2 different exercises. If you did not check out last week's video on resisted diaphragmatic breathing in the basics and a hands and knees position, please go back to that video. I need you to master that move first before you add in these other moves. These other moves are going to be more of a challenge, but they are something that I want you to work your way up to. So I'm going to show you the moves and how you can add this to your training so you can continue to strengthen your core and strengthen your pelvic floor while reducing symptoms. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so of course, the very first exercise is going to be that hands and knees breathing, but I'm actually going to show you a advanced version because in the last video I showed you hands and knees breathing. This video I'm going to show you the hands and knees hover, or a bear plank. So there's a couple different things you can use for this position. So number one is you can use the wall for support. So you can think about dragging the feet, so pressing the feet into the wall and then dragging them up. Once you've been able to master this position without any issues, without any symptoms, then you can add in that resisted breathing. So just like I showed in the last video, this is where you can add in that straw, and then once you're ready, you can add in the balloon. So very important with the balloon, just to recap, what we're doing is we're incorporating resisted breathing to strengthen our diaphragm, strengthen our core, and strengthen our pelvic floor. It's very important that we inhale through our nose and we exhale into the balloon. Please do not inhale through the balloon. Do not inhale. That is what the whole purpose is that you're able to have the strength to close off your glottis to keep the air in the balloon. So we want to keep any air that we exhale into the balloon by closing off our throat. So this takes time and practice. This is why we start with a straw first. This is why we build up that resistance and then move on when we're ready. Okay, so you're going to come into that hands and knees position. I want you to think about pressing the fingertips into the floor to push through so you're not sinking down, but you're also not rounding through that spine. You're pushing through, you're engaging those lats, and you want to think that you have a nice long neck, okay? Very important in this bear plank position that I hear quite often is that women will feel it in their quads. And so when we feel it on our quads, it's because our core is not doing its job. So I always like to think about pulling that pubic bone up towards the sternum, or think about pulling those hip bones towards one another. And you almost want to think tucking your pelvis slightly under, because when we're in more of a posterior pelvic tilt, we get more of those low abs on board. But this does not mean clenching and tucking your glutes. I'm using my core to engage to tuck the pelvis slightly under. So having a slight round through that lumbar spine is perfectly fine. In fact, that's kind of what we want. So once you've established your position, like I said, you can use the wall. You can think about dragging the feet or just using the wall for support to keep you in that position while you come up and hold is one option. And then of course the other option is placing the yoga block in between the knees, because when we place something in between our knees, this automatically turns the adductors on, which naturally lifts the front of the pelvic floor. And so most women have pelvic floor weakness and back pelvic floor tightness, which is fantastic. This is exactly what we want to do. This is how we want to train. Okay, so you're going to choose the position that works best for you. Then once you feel ready, you're going to place the balloon in your mouth without clenching down. So we are not clenching down with our teeth, we're placing it in the mouth. And one thing I want you to know, because I learned it myself, is don't wear any lip gloss. I put some lip gloss on right before this video, and I went to go blow up the balloon. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Not today. So I literally had to wipe my lips off because it just it slipped right out. So just take that tip from me. Okay, so go ahead and get yourself set up. Place the balloon in between your lips. You're going to inhale through the nose and then exhale through the mouth. You're going to come into that hover position, and that's when you're going to start your breathing. Okay, so That lip gloss is still playing with me there. So what you want to think when you're in this position is your breath is going into your ribs and it's going into your back. And the reason that it's going there is because you're compressing the abdominals. So when we compress one spot, then the breath has to go somewhere else. And so that's the whole idea, is that we are increasing the expansion in our back and our ribs, because that's where a lot of the compression or the tension might be in most individuals' bodies. So by adding in this resisted breathing with our core training, helps to strengthen the core and the pelvic floor, but also forces the breath into those other areas. So again, you want to think that you're inhaling through the nose and then exhaling through the balloon. No lip gloss, because I'm still feeling the effects of it. My balloon was about to pop out. And you really want to focus on compressing the core while you're in that move. Our second move is going to be a dead bug. So again, you want to master the basics. You want to be able to master a dead bug, both hands and knees, the brain body connection, all of that before you add in balloon training, because this is a very advanced move. Now I'm going to use the wall for my dead bug. So I'm going to come down onto the mat and I'm going to have my hands on the wall and my knees up above my hips. And I'm going to press into the wall as I drive out and bring it in. So you're pressing into the wall to create tension from the top down, and then you're using the core and the pelvic floor to combat that tension from the top, so that you're working together and you're cinching up those abdominals, okay? So once you've mastered your dead bug, then you can add in the balloon training. Just want to wipe off the lip gloss. So you're going to, same thing with that bear plank, is you're going to place the balloon in the mouth. Be very careful in this position, because again, we want to think about inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the balloon, and we're not sucking the air back in from the balloon. We're keeping the glottis closed so that all of the air that's in the balloon is not coming back in, okay? Very, very mindful of that. All right, so go ahead and place it in between your mouth. Same thing, we are not clenching down, we're just holding it there, but we don't have lip gloss on, right? Fantastic job. So the reason why I love this move is I love dead bugs. They are a staple in my programming today for my clients all throughout, whether you're postpartum or you're postmenopause. Dead bugs are just an amazing exercise. Leg lifts in general, when you drive the legs out, those activate the pelvic floor more than an isolated Kegel. And so progressing ourselves to that full dead bug is really beneficial for your pelvic floor, but it's also really good for that cross-body core connection, also fantastic for the posture. When we add in that resisted breathing, it takes it up a notch. And that's what we want. We want to progress our core training, progress our pelvic floor training with resisted breathing, because that's how we're going to get stronger. Our third exercise is a side plank. Now, there are a million different side planks variations that I could show you. I personally love a side plank Copenhagen, but that is uber advanced. Like, that is really advanced. And so we really want to make sure that we build up to that. If you're ready, you can do that. But in today's video, I'm going to show you a super simple side plank. So I'm going to come down on to the mat. So in one of my videos, I showed all the variations for a side plank. I'm going to do the side plank with the bottom knee bent and one leg out. You're going to choose a side plank variation that you feel strong in, because if you don't feel strong in it and you add in that resisted training, it's not going to be pretty. So I really want you to make sure that you choose a level that you are confident in and you can hold at least 30 seconds without fatiguing. Okay, very important. All right, so I'm going to place my elbow on the mat and I want to think about pressing through the mat to lift myself up. We don't want to sink into our elbow. One thing you do is take this opposite hand and reach up towards the ceiling, because that'll help pull you out of the shoulder. All right, so I'm going to place my bottom leg down and my top leg out. I'm going to place the balloon in my mouth just like we have been doing, inhaling through the nose and then exhaling into the balloon, keeping the air in the balloon. And our goal with this position is we want to get more expansion in this rib. So the rib that is towards the ceiling, that's where we're going to get most of that expansion, because down here we're compressed, right? We are all compressed, we're contracted. And so all of that breath is going to go into that side rib and into our back. So that is our goal with this position. Okay, so now if you feel like you're not sinking into your shoulder and you feel pretty good about that, you can always actually take this arm out in front of you, and that's going to open up more expansion in the back. And so when you take the arm out in front of you, that's going to allow space within your rib cage, your shoulders, to allow more of the breath to go back there. So it's another variation that you can try. I'm going to show you that real quick. Fantastic job. So again, you can choose the side plank variation that works for you, depending on where your sticky spots are. Give it a try and see. You might notice that this will help. I had one client that was in the military, and she went to do her PT test, and she was like, oh my goodness, Angela, because you're teaching me of how to breathe and how to brace in my core and my plank, I was able to hold without shaking. You know how like when you hold a plank for so long and you start to shake and you're wobbly? She was able to hold it with strength because she focused on her breath. When we really focus on our breath, and that's what this balloon breathing is teaching us, it helps us to tune into our body, and it actually makes us stronger. So I just wanted to share that with you because that was a huge success. I was so proud of her for doing that. Okay, so our next exercise is going to be a wall sit. So I'm going to grab my yoga block, and I'm going to grab my balloon, and I'm going to get myself set up on the wall. Okay, so you're going to find a space on the wall, and I am going to add my yoga block. I do feel, like I said, this helps with adductor strengthening. When we squeeze the block, it activates those adductors, which naturally lifts the pelvic floor. And so we're just going to come down onto our space or our wall. And I want you to think about your whole back is against the wall, and your knees or your feet are underneath your knees. Your head is going to come back to the wall, and I'm going to have you drive your hands out, because just like I showed you with that side plank, my quads are already screaming at me. So as you drive the arms out, this is going to help open up this space here, which is going to allow us to get our breath here, because we are going to compress the front. And our goal is to create space in our ribs and in our back with our breathing. All right, get yourself mentally ready, because my quads are already screaming at me in this position. So just like with any other move, we're going to inhale through the nose, exhale through the balloon. We're going to close off the glottis, so close off our throat so that the air does not come back in from the balloon. We want to make sure that we keep all of the breath in there. Okay, so first off, I don't know if you caught that, but the balloon was getting caught on my lips, so it was like stuck on my lips still. And so what I was doing is I was reaching out, and as I was inhaling, allowing that space to expand, and then as I exhaled, I was exhaling into the balloon and squeezing the yoga block. So I wasn't squeezing the yoga block the whole time, I was squeezing it with that exhale in that position. So ideally you do want to get down to a 90-90, but even if you start here and you focus on here, we want to make sure that there's no gap in your back and the wall. We really want to make sure that we're pressed up against the wall, head is on the wall, and we're reaching through. That's, like I said, that's going to create that space. And even if you have to start here and then work your way down to that full that full wall sit, that's where you're going to be. So start where it feels best for you, and then work your way down as you continue to get stronger. So now the question is, what do you do with all this, right? How do you incorporate this into your training? That's a good question. I personally love adding in one move into my warm up. So I might do it for my warm up, or I might do it as part of my core circuit. Depends. If I'm doing a heavier lifting day, I prefer doing it as part of my warm up, because it primes and preps my diaphragm, my core, my pelvic floor for what I'm about to do, for that load. So if I have a heavy deadlift day, or I have a heavy squat day, for example, I'll do it as part of my warm up to support that warming up. Now, I would do just like any other exercise, 2 to 3 times. 3 times is best if you have the time for it. And you want to think, you can either focus on getting the whole balloon blown up, or you can do 5 to 8 breaths into the balloon, depending on how big your balloons are and how restricted they are. One thing that I want to note is that If you want to make sure you have a new balloon for every single workout, because they will get thinned out and it won't be as resisted. So meaning that it won't be as hard when you go into your next workout. So another thing you could do is, either if it is really hard for you to blow up, that first blow is always going to be the hardest. So you could think about pumping it up real quick, so that you have some give to it, maybe the first couple of times that you do this. And then after that, you're strong enough to do that first blow on your by yourself without the support. So anyway, I would pick one exercise either as part of your warm up or as part of your core circuit. Like I said, I personally love the warm up one because that helps to prime the body for what you're about to do. It really helps with that diaphragmatic breathing and prepares your body for your workout. All right, I hope that you enjoyed that. I would love to hear what else you would like to see on this channel, what kind of exercises, what you're looking for, how can I answer your questions when it comes to prolapse healing, leaking, and diastasis recti, whether you are newly postpartum or you're postmenopausal. This all is the same, right? We pick that same methodology in training the body in a way that supports your pelvic floor and gets you stronger, because we have to be strong for motherhood. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, share with a mama friend, and make sure you like this video so that I know and can continue to keep recording more content for you. All right, I'll see you in the next video.